Now, there are a lot of myths in the hunting industry, and a lot of them hurt hunters. They're tried and true, quote, tried and true myths, traditions that have passed along for a long time. I'd say one of them was, to begin with, was peeing out of a stand. We're going to talk about the purpose of this video right here, which is the dry doe myth, but even just peeing out of your tree stand, bringing a nasty bottle in a backpack so you can pee into it while you're on your tree stand and carry that pee back with you in a backpack. And deer don't care about that scent of pee. They don't care about human scent. That's been debunked many times over, but there's still people that carry that pee jug out there. Same with a blind. Now, I can see someone not wanting to open their door and spook deer. You know, that's something to their blind, but maybe there shouldn't be deer behind you anyways, or whatever. Maybe there's a house nearby. That's my good reason for carrying a pee bottle inside. If you have to go, you have to go. But you can't shoot deer sitting on the couch. That has hurt more hunters. And it's a saying that shouldn't even be repeated as far as advice, because if you're burning out your stands, burning out your land, your family, your boss, you're not going to shoot a lot of deer. There's literally days that are 1%. There's always, you can always shoot a buck. They're in the woods, right? That's what people say. You can shoot a deer any day. And that's true. Even during blizzard, you might be able to stalk a buck in a cedar swamp up in the UP of Michigan or northern upstate New York, the upper Midwest. There's always that potential. Driving rain, if you want to hunt in that and you think that's ethical as far as blood trailing, there's always a chance to shoot a deer. But there are days out there, based on the weather, based on the stand timing, what your neighbor's doing, what you're doing, where you have a 40-50% chance of success. And if you hunt too many days because you're not sitting on the couch, you're not going to experience that 40-50% day because that stand and your land is burned out, whether you're on public land or private land. Horrible advice, not only bad myths, but you can shoot more deer by sitting on the couch simply because you're hunting smart. Hunting methodically, watching the weather. Of course, we use HuntCast with HuntWise because I helped build it, and that's an algorithm I developed a long time ago. But it's important as it relates to shooting deer, sitting on the couch, sitting on not. Yeah, if you want to enjoy the beauty of the great outdoors, go for a hike, you know, go pheasant hunting somewhere, whatever, or just sit off to on a stand off to the side that doesn't ruin your property. But when it comes to dry doe myth, it is a myth. There's a lot of people, I haven't seen a doe without fawns. I need to reduce the doe population on the property, and not every property does. You know, and I was in the UP of Michigan, owned land from 98, 99 all the way to 2004, 2005. Didn't shoot a doe till about 2006 because I was in herd building mode. And people say, well, that's not scientific, it's not acceptable. But the QDMA gave me their Deer Manager of the Year award in 2004 out of 40,000 members. And I wrote an article in their Quality Whitetails magazine describing how I hadn't shot a doe because we were in herd building mode. And that was still QDM, that was still quality deer management, it was still scientific, because if your deer herd's too low, you build it up. So when you're shooting and you're looking for that doe to shoot, just because it doesn't have fawns doesn't mean it's a dry doe. Could have been that it had, the fawns got picked off by predators, by a car. Who knows what happened? But literally, if a doe is not having fawns and it's not able biologically to have a fawn, it's because it's sick or dying, was sick during that time period, couldn't actually, it aborted the fawns it had. The bottom line is there's something wrong with that deer. Maybe it wasn't bred, but likely there was something wrong with it, and you might not even see that deer during the fall because it probably already died. There's a doe I heard about in the eastern portion of the UP. I heard it from John Azogi, he's a deer research biologist up there. You know, it might get the exact years wrong, so don't quote me on this, but I believe it was 23 years that doe lived in captivity on the east side of the UP. Over on the other side of 75, there's a deer pen over there. I think it was 70, Rudyard area, somewhere in that area. But bottom line is it lived 23 years, which a lot of people don't realize deer can live that long. There's a lot more stress for bucks, so they'll still make it to 11, 12, 13, 14 years in captivity, maybe even longer. That doe had 12 sets of triplets and 11 sets of twins. When it was going to die, didn't have any fawns. That's when it stops producing fawns. So what does that mean for you? The dry doe myth is just that, it's a myth. There aren't does out there that just don't conceive and don't bear any fawns. That's biologically not the way it works, and that's just a myth. What it means is if you need to reduce a deer herd, you can shoot a doe with fawns and those fawns will survive. Even in the UP of Michigan, where you have areas that average close to 300 inches of snow and a little bit more. You go up to Millstrand, Michigan. they average 293. Munising averages 185. Marquette, Michigan averages 175. You go over to Houghton, Hancock, and up into the Keweenaw Peninsula, actually average over 300 inches of snow. But guess what? Those fawns live when their mother is killed because they will hook up with another doe family group. They'll follow them on the migration routes. They'll get to the deer yard. Deer are social. And yeah, they might get pushed off to the side and not get a lot of food, but guess what? Their mother would have done that too. So it's not like this big happy family. Offsprings, they're still fighting for food. As long as they have enough food and they get to those deer yards, they're going to survive, let alone when they're in southern Michigan, southern Wisconsin, southern Minnesota, over to Pennsylvania, southern New York, and south. Anywhere in the country, those winters won't kill them. They will hook up with another doe family group and they're going to live. Something interesting too when you're considering this, a fawn buck, a button buck, not a yearling buck. That's another myth. A yearling deer is a year and a half old. That's why they call it a yearling. So when you see it during the hunting season, it has its first set of antlers. That's a yearling deer. That's a yearling buck. A fawn is a year younger. It was born this year. So when you see a mother with twin button bucks, if you shoot that mother, those button bucks are about 70% likely to stick around the area. Mother's gone, they just stay close to home. If the mother's still alive, there's about a 90% chance that that buck disperses about 1.5 miles. Now, if you're a good habitat manager and you know that they're dispersing like that, that means multiple food sources, multiple bedding areas, not big open field food sources. You have lots of food spread out, long linear foods, corners, inside corners, hidden areas where you can actually collect those dispersing bucks. Sometimes they actually disperse at button buck or fawn status where there's good, great habitat, more southerly locations, even southern Michigan, they'll do that sometimes, but not in the UP of Michigan. They'll usually stick with their mothers till about 1.5 years, and then they disperse as a 1.5 years old. And I'm not sure of the percentages between the two, but bottom line is the average dispersal is about 1.5 miles. So they disperse from their mother because the mother's still around. And that's a way you can collect and build a huge buck herd on your property by having separate food sources spread out, inside corners, hidden areas in those food sources so you can actually have more deer on there, and that is more inviting for those dispersing bucks. So that's really important to remember. But bottom line, if you're shooting that mother, those fawns will survive, and you're making a management decision based on if you need to shoot does or not. Now, one of the things to consider, where you have winter kill. Winter kill is not in Kentucky. Winter kill is not in Ohio, Illinois, southern Wisconsin, southern Minnesota. It's in the UP of Michigan, northern Wisconsin, northern Minnesota, even portions of the snow belt going over from Erie and a little bit east in Pennsylvania, where you get over by the Allegheny Reservoir and the mountain areas, the hills. There's a good portion of winter kill in those locations. In those locations, you're trying to manage an older doe herd because they're stable. Once a doe gets to 2.5, 3 years old, it's mature and it's going to survive any winter. There's many studies that have shown that in the UP of Michigan. Once those does get to that age, it's almost impossible to kill with winter severity. And so that's why you like to maintain an older age structure in those high winter kill areas. In fact, the UP of Michigan, they average about 50,000 fawns killed on an average winter, which is about 50% of all fawns. And bad winters, you'll lose 90% of fawns, and you'll actually use 50% of yearling deer. So you can wipe out almost a whole age class of bucks with a terrible winter, let alone the age class from the year before. Now, when you get south though, I like to maintain, even where we're at in southeast Minnesota, southwest Wisconsin, I like to maintain a younger average doe age structure because it's not based on survival. So in those areas, you shoot older does, so you have younger does that aren't as wise, they're not going to pick you off in the trees. And so I'd rather bring that average age down in a location like that, so I have less experienced younger does on the property, makes it easier to hunt property. So there's some little strategy in that. But again, it goes back to bottom line. If you need to take does out because you need to reduce population, and not everyone has to, then you're looking for does, whether they have fawns or not. I know people think, oh, that's just terrible to do. They still have spots. Folks, they're going to live. It's just the bottom line. And then also, there's no such thing as a dry doe. So always keep that in mind. You're not taking out a doe that is walking by and you think, boy, I better shoot her. She's not having any fawns. That's not a management decision at all. There's nothing to do with that. There's no validity to that. So think about those decisions that you're making. And when you shoot does, when you're not, there's no such thing as a dry doe, let alone there's no such thing as you can't shoot them from the couch or by sitting on the couch, because you can shoot more deer by sitting them on the couch. And that's what smart hunters, educated hunters, experienced hunters know about deer hunting. And we're letting you guys in on a little secret. I hope you haven't been following that. And bottom line, in the end, go ahead and pee off your stand. No big deal. That's what we've been doing for years, In fact, we pee on, urinate on our mock scrapes we make when we first make them, just to have that big dirt pad and a little bit of urine in there, just to attract that initial attraction. And then those deer continue to leave their preorbital gland scent on the mock scrape. And hope you enjoyed today's video, but that's a big myth that I wanted to hit, especially in the early season. I'll finish with this. Early season, late season, great times to shoot does. The closer you get to gun season, bad time to shoot them unless you have a buck on the ground. That's the time when your property should be sacred. If you shoot does on opening day, you're really hurting your property going in there and retrieving those. If you want to create a balanced herd, a good buck age structure, sex ratios, if you care about those things. If you don't, go ahead and do what you want. I had a client a few years ago, north of Eau Claire. He shot 5 does on one opening day of gun season, 3 the next, and then wonders where the deer went. And that's not a good decision. They wanted to do it with his brother, his buddies, and I think they paid the price for a few years because of that. And it certainly paid the price for the entire 9-day gun season hunt and beyond into the muzzleloader in Wisconsin. So enjoy learning about these myth tips and busting these myths. And always remember, make a decision when you're shooting does based on science and management of your property, or just simply you just want some venison. That's a good reason to. But don't ever shoot a doe just because she's dry, or go out with the intention of looking for a dry doe, because there's just simply no such thing. Folks, I want to make sure you check out my web class video series, whether it's how to design your food plot program or how to design your property in general. And we have a new one coming out that'll be how to hunt the rut. But these bucks back here are a testament. Some of these bucks go back to 93. They're even in different states. I urge you to check out those web classes that you can help yourself, help your land, help your hunt. The link is in the description. And also for those that have tried them out, I encourage you to offer some feedback in the comments below. Thank you.